I'm George Hutton, and you are listening to the Mind Persuasion Podcast. Today we continue our study of weaponized hypnosis. For more information, please visit mindpersuasion.com/weaponized-hypnosis. In today's podcast, we'll be talking about collecting weapons. There are two ways to use this as a weapon. One is to get your enemy alone and start off with a simple-sounding story, but covertly drift into horror story territory. And when you reference any horrible ideas in the characters in the story, use the RS anchor, the one where you motion to the right side and then motion to yourself. For example, you might start off by talking about a movie you saw recently and then shift to talking about a horror movie. Then you describe that horror movie in great detail, and every time you refer to a bad part or a bad action or a bad character, use any of the anchors. In some later podcasts, we'll go over some word-for-word stories that you can memorize and use. Think of these as like the linguistic presupposition-based ego attack strategies from a couple of podcasts ago. These will generally work pretty well. However, if you really want to destroy them, you can first set them up. First, collect things from them and connect them to your anchors. Then tell them the horror story where you also connect the horrible things and horrible characters to your anchors. Then every time you see them, they will feel a deep feeling of dread. You will represent the associating of their dreams with horror. They won't think this consciously. It will just be a deep feeling of vague anxiety that they connect with you. They'll also feel a deep sense of anxiety when they think about you. If they are in a meeting and you aren't present and the topic of you comes up, a feeling of anxiety will come up. If you are also practicing positive anchors with everybody else, this will have a double effect. It will be clear to your enemy that everybody talks about you in glowing terms, but whenever they think of you, they get a deep feeling of anxiety and dread. This will make them feel very uncomfortable, and it will make it very unlikely that they will openly speak out against you. But to make sure they get the message, you can deliver the horror story to them in a very personal and direct way. This will be something you should practice, and probably something you will not ever want to do because it will be very devastating to them. But if you positively, absolutely want to remove somebody from your life and not get in trouble for murder, this is the way to go. Collecting targets. The first step is to collect things you'll later be destroying. Anything they think about positively in their future will work. Get them talking about their career or any romantic interests they have, any dreams they had as a child they are willing to talk about. Or if you want to be particularly diabolical, you can collect fond memories from their childhood. The first time they caught a fish or the first time they rode a bicycle. Normally these conversations tend to come up spontaneously. They aren't things you can generally ask people about out of the blue, but with an enemy, they will tend to be easier than most. Enemies are enemies because they want to hurt you, or they won't leave you alone. Either way, they will be very keen to tell you the wonderful things about themselves. With respect to you, your enemy will have an oversized ego. For example, if you asked a regular friend or colleague about the first time they caught a fish or rode a bike, this might seem a bit odd. But your enemy will be pleased to tell you something they think is fantastic about themselves. Either way, eliciting these topics is easy. You can start off with a neutral subject, a third party or somebody in the news. Then talk about yourself in only slightly positive terms. This will covertly invite them to outdo you. Once you finish describing yourself, ask about them. Ask a few follow-up questions and then connect any of their phrases about their future to either of your anchors, to the side or to yourself. Example. Let's say you are sitting with your enemy. Something on TV comes up about a famous actor or musician. That is a positive story. Step 1. Talk about the person on TV in curious terms. Ask your enemy a vague question about whether they know about them or like them. The answer is not important. Step 2. Talk about the TV person briefly, about how some people get lucky and become rich and famous while other people have to struggle and work for a living. Step 3. Talk about a realistic dream you had when you were younger, one that you still believe is possible. Describe your dream and the possibility you think that it might happen. Step 4. Ask them about a similar dream of theirs that they had and they wanted to become and still might become. Step 5. Ask simple follow-up questions with as much open curiosity and as little judgment as possible about their dreams. Encourage them if you can. Get them to talk about their ideal future as much as they like. Step 6. Look in their descriptions for their short phrases that they say with increased enthusiasm. This would be similar to the parasailing and watching whales example from the last podcast. Repeat them back with your R or self-point anchor. Step 7. This is the most important part. You need to make sure you mimic their facial expressions, voice tone, and other nonverbal body language as much as possible when setting your anchors. The longer the conversation goes, the better. The idea is to link their deep dreams to the future to not only your anchors but also your facial expressions, the tone of your voice, and other nonverbal energy. Do this as often as you can. The more you can link your communication style, body language, facial expressions, voice tone, spatial anchors to their positive hopes and dreams of the future, the better. Later, if you want to absolutely obliterate their happiness and want them to want to avoid you like the Grim Reaper himself, use those same gestures and facial expressions and voice tone when you are later delivering the one-on-one horror story. This will feel very much to them as a blatant psychic and emotional attack and will have horrible ramifications. This is ideal if they are a stalker or somebody that simply will not leave you alone. However, if they are an enemy that only likes to bully you through their conversation, you may not have to deliver the death blow. By forcing yourself to connect your communication energy, nonverbal communication, including gestures and anchors and voice tone, to their dreams and positive memories, they will stop wanting to harm you since they now associate their deepest dreams with you. Ancient enemy destruction technique. This is a very ancient idea, namely because it works very well. The idea goes that the best way to conquer your enemy is to make him your friend. By forcing yourself to be friendly in a very specific way with your enemy, they will not want to be your enemy. Of course, they don't think of themselves as your enemy. They think of you as somebody that, for whatever reason, should be bullied and openly humiliated whenever possible. You may find that just setting them up for the kill may be enough. But here's the best part. Simply by setting them up for the final kill, you'll always maintain the option of destroying them completely or allowing them to voluntarily and subconsciously stop being your enemy. This will give you a huge amount of personal power. This is the secret behind the strategy of keep your enemy closer. Once you keep, which implies control, your enemy closer, you can use them to your advantage. You can manipulate them, turn them into a friend, or bake their children into a meat pie and feed it to them at a dinner party you host in their honor, as Shakespeare's Titus Andronicus did to his enemy. Of course, we are speaking metaphorically. You shouldn't really kill the children of your enemy and bake them into a meat pie for a dinner party, but you can reserve the right to deliver to them a tale of horror and misery, one that will make them never ever want to have anything to do with you again. But we still have a couple more tricks up our sleeve, namely the technique of delivering them horror stories wrapped in a powerful hypnotic structure that will confuse their minds and make them question what is real and what isn't. I'm George Hutton. Thank you for listening to the Mind Persuasion Podcast. For more information, please visit mindpersuasion.com/weaponized-hypnosis. I look forward to speaking with you again soon.